Well, I predicted it, a landslide towards Labour, and a lot of you will be thinking that's a bad thing. It is, but it's a good thing, and I'll explain that in a bit. Now, the reason Labour got their vote is because their supporters are slightly more enthusiastic about them winning than obviously we are. And our, you call it the centre, call it the right, call it far right, whatever you want, right? Everybody has lost total faith in certainly voting Conservative. So that lot didn't show up, and many people just didn't go out and vote. I was in my village and I saw some of the most swamp donkey lefts, right, going out to vote. Some of the worst misfits making the effort. And our lot are so disillusioned that they said, fuck it, what's the point? The point is that we didn't show up and Labour have a landslide. We'll get to that. However, a lot of people did defect to Reform. A lot of people, like myself, went independent. I know the guy. I couldn't have voted any more honestly if I tried, because I've known the guy for a long time. We've talked about politics. I know where he stands. So I voted for him. And I'll have a clear conscience for the rest of my days. A lot of people from Conservative actually voted Liberal Democrat. And Labour have won so much that Conservative may not actually come back after this. Now, here's my prediction, and some it rhymes with Conservative and conspiracy. Can't say that on here, otherwise you get demerit. But here's what I predict now, right? Labour immediately will push for us to rejoin the European Union, which, with very little opposition, they'll get. Liberal Democrats want us in there, Labour want us in there, and Conservative nowhere to be seen. So we're going to go back to the European Union, like it or not. And as soon as we've got to that stage, the European Union will act on exactly what they wanted to do prior to us leaving. The plan had come up that what they were going to do within the year was they were going to go and push for full sovereignty of all of these nations. The plan was, regarding the UK, to move the House of Lords, House of Commons out. That would now be a tourist attraction, and everything would be done over in Brussels. And our banking system would be taken from the centre of London and moved over towards Brussels. That was their plan, and we would no longer have sovereignty over our country. This may well happen, and we'll also get a European army. This will be put there to fight proxy wars. If you were ever interested, there was a guy who was very high up in the American army, lifelong soldier, went all the way to the top. He actually stopped a conspiracy to take over the government by rogue elements of the one percenters, the globalists. And it was at the time that they were coming out of the depression. And he went to the president at the time and told him what had happened. And to his complete incredulity, the president did nothing. Anyway, his name is, I think, Smedley Butler. I think it's that. Anyway, he wrote a book called War is a Racket. And even back then, going through the wars that he'd gone through, he realised that wars were nothing else than it was a political thing, and it was to serve the rich. All right? Now, I've not read his book because I'm dyslexic, it could take a while. But he's on YouTube. There's little clips of him saying why he did what he did. But we will be led into more wars now, okay? Make sure of that. But the European Union army will be simply there to stop any uprising within any of the member states within the European Union. Say, for instance, we decide we've had enough of the European Union rule and we stand up against it. The European army will come in with soldiers that are not from Great Britain and put down any insurrection. You can now imagine it, and I'm so glad that I've studied all about Northern Ireland, that we will be, in some ways, similar to the Republicans, in so much as, right, this is the only, because we're not going to go socialist, although the European Union will be a socialist entity, we will be a natural people within a country that has been taken over by a foreign power, okay? And we will want to remove that foreign power from our island, all right? That's where the similarity starts and ends, all right? Nothing else. One thing I feel better about is I realised that our government was going to fuck us over, but going up against your government could be called, in some ways, treason. if you go up against a foreign power which has taken control of your isle, then you're a patriot. You're not a traitor. So in some ways, I'm going to feel better. This is, as Ramirez from the Highlanders said, the quickening, and it is. This will wake people up so fucking fast, their feet won't touch the ground. Left, right, up, down, the whole lot. Some of the laws that this lot are going to enact, right, will piss off the far left, the left, and everybody else, right? Be aware that Keir Starmer serves the rich, the super rich, the people that put him in power. He is nothing but a puppet, insomuch so that his speech apparently was likened to the exact same speech that Tony Blair gave when he talked about New Labour. And Keir Starmer is trying to say that this is a New Labour, and it is. In a New Labour, so much as they do not, under any circumstance, serve the people. Bearing in mind, Labour was set up by a few Jewish people to basically push the socialist line and allegedly support the working man and give him better rights, better working environment, etc., etc. And I think when it started out, it was down that road. However, that was a long time ago, and Labour certainly don't serve the working man. If they did, they would, they wouldn't be importing en masse the immigration that they do, because there's not enough jobs to go around anyway. But a lot of people from the left will say, well, white people over here are too lazy, they won't work, the immigrants will. And that is in some cases true too, so I can't argue with that. In other cases, many people will say, well, I'm not working for that very cheap amount of wedge, but that guy will, because that's super money too. Anyway, that aside, if we join the European Union, and I'm going to say we will, the next thing that you can expect is ferry loads of immigrants coming over, flooding our great nation, and changing the demographic at a speed nobody has seen before. Okay? This is my prediction, and mark my prediction, because I said that everything so far that's happening would happen. All right? I predicted the population change in Ireland about 8 or 9 years ago now. I predicted that this lot would win by a landslide, and I also said that Nigel Farage was paid opposition and a stooge. Now, Nigel Farage is indeed happy with the result, because that man wants to get back into the European Union. Why not? £100,000 a year plus expenses, right? You get centre stage, you get a lot of camera time, and obviously all the other airtime that will go with it. He'd love that. So, he'll be back there championing against the European Union and making the gullible amongst you, sorry about that, believe that he is talking on behalf of the people. Now, Anna Breeze put out a video a little while about him, and I think you should all watch that, where I don't support Anna Breeze, and I know she's ex-BBC. She wouldn't get away with saying what she was saying unless it's true. And to be honest, Farage did already admit this. So, was Farage led out to lead opposition to the Tories to make sure that they were so annihilated in the polls that Labour would get the landslide that they did, and we'll go back to the European Union? Well, that's to be decided, but anybody who's done any great digging into Farage realises that not only is he political contraception, but that he either lets you down or he comes along just at the right time to cause something completely fucked. So he's done what he's meant to have done, right? And he'll say that they've claimed a great result, and many people have voted for reform, and he'll keep leading. So this is what you can expect. And if I get the chance later on, I might well see if I can do a live stream, but I'm in the truck and somebody else will have to host it, okay? Because obviously I can't do it in here, and it all depends on the signal. So what we're also going to get now is a lot more green stuff, okay? What many of you could probably be happy about, and this is something else I predict, is that they won't go hard at the benefit system in the same way that the Conservatives were. So many of the people out there sponging off the state, and if you're generally ill and you need it, or your kids are generally got something wrong with them, this doesn't apply to you. But the ones that actually could work but have managed to manipulate the system to give them pip, pep, whatever you call it, right, and to milk at the prostate of the system, you're still safe for a while, at least for now. But that is until the benefit system collapses, and then you're fucked, which it will. But that's just another thing, and that will happen soon. But this is the acceleration that I wanted. Now, some of you will be saying, as a patriot, how could you want all of this to happen to your country? Well, here's the fact. It's going to happen anyway, all right? It would have happened sooner or later. It's just going to happen sooner. Now, the fact of the matter is, with it happening sooner, while the population and the demographics are as they are, there is the faintest chance that the people might wake up. And this is not just the white people. Take, for instance, Muslims. There are many Muslims that family came to this country to escape what is now coming into this country. And these people will support you, us, right? Because they don't want the people that are coming in, because they know just what happens when that sort of people come in. I mean, we're not getting in the architects and the brain surgeons like they promised us. But there again, if they were architects and brain surgeons, they could have flown in legally. So there it is. So I would predict that there'll be many Muslims on our side, and the Sikhs, obviously, and many of the whites, many of the blacks, because at the end of the day, the conservative or the straight up working black person can see the way it's going in the same way that any other colour can, and they'll get on board. But they have to see it going to shit, and rapidly. And this is exactly what's going to happen. This is the acceleration I wanted, because it's the only thing that will give us half a fucking chance to wake up the sleeping, the sheep, whatever you want to call it. We need this. And unfortunately, things always have to get worse before they get better. But on the flip side, when things start to get really bad and people start to wake up, that's right about the time that they start a war, which will keep you all occupied with, I don't know, the horrors of war. Whatever that would be at the moment, because obviously war today is very different to 1939 to 45, as that was very different to prior 1900. You know, in the old days you'd stand up against somebody who didn't have a weapon, just a spear, and shoot them, which was not very fair. And then obviously as war progressed, you ended up with the First World War, which was literally a meat grinder. That went on for some time, and then you ended up with the Second World War, a meat grinder but of a different nature, and then we've had wars ever since. Now the wars that we will face in the future, we'll have civil war. That's never good, right? But we'll also have a more technical war, and I don't exactly know which way that'll play out. But the other problem that we have is that while they're trying to flood our country en masse full of people who they've ruin their country, so they're not going to have any great love for us, and understandably, while they're doing this and flooding our country full of them, the actual active fit to fucking fight, you know what I mean, those ones, the more strength in our nation, these will be sent off to a meat grinder to be destroyed, at which point all we'll be left with from our nation will be old people. These are the people who are indigenous, right? All we'll be left with is old people and mentally ill or physically ill. The rest would have been sent off to the meat grinder. Obviously this isn't within the next 5 years, but it could be. I'm not sure yet, all right? The European Union thing very much so, and then obviously the plans thereafter to take sovereignty back so you don't ever get the chance to vote against what's happening. That will be why it happens, because the globalists are not stupid. They can see that you lot are slowly waking up, and you might actually get the hint, and then you might decide to go against their plans, and obviously they'd have worked out a way that you can't do that. And what better way of doing it than taking your sovereignty away and putting all the power within the hands of an offshore country who dictates everything you do. There's me thinking that empires were bad. I mean, let's be honest, everybody's gone against the Brits saying, oh, your colonialism, your empire, rah, 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 and look what it did. What do you think the European Union's going to be? The European Union's going to be nothing more than another empire where the very seats of power pillage every fucking country and destroy it, whilst making themselves uber rich and thinning out the population, whilst destroying the demographic and literally changing the face of Europe forever. And why? That's the key question. Why? Who benefits? And why do they benefit? And then look at why do they hate you? Because you've got to be honest, they can't, oh, wrong way, nearly went the wrong way. They can't like you If they liked you, they wouldn't dream of doing this. So there's obviously some people that clearly don't like you and want to make your life infinitely worse. Now, you may be like me, nearly 50 years old or older. You may not have many years left on this planet. I'm not being depressing here, but that might be a fucking fact. You might be in your 60s or 70s. But the fact of the matter is, most of you will have had offspring, and they will have offspring. And I don't know about you, but I'm thinking about my daughter and any grandchildren that come along. And I'm thinking, what sort of life have my gen or the generation before left for them? And the fact of the matter is, fucking awful. I, in many ways, was one of the luckiest alive. I grew up as a child in the 80s. I was born in 75. I was lucky enough to remember a tiny little bit of the 70s and the 80s and growing up and all the things that we had and we did without all the worries that the generations of today have. And what am I going to give to my daughter? Well, it certainly won't be the fucking the country that I was born into. And by the time that she has kids, if it goes the way I think it'll go, the type of planet or country or European block, if you like, that she'll give to her kids will be infinitely worse again. And democracy will be done away with because, well, in fairness, we've had the illusion of democracy for 100 odd years. And all the times that we didn't have the internet, we didn't have television and stuff like that, and all you had was usually a paper, it worked. The illusion was there. I mean, people only had the information that they were given by the people who controlled the information. But the unfortunate thing was we got hold of the internet and we started sharing information at a scale never seen before. And we are now, many of us, aware, and we've done a lot of history, and we've dug into the way that, say for instance, the rich, the super rich, manipulate things, how they create wars, how they benefit wars, how they then benefit from the rebuilding of said country and all the rest of it, how foreign aid works, and all of these other things. We've worked out how they've manipulated the vote in many fucking countries, how they've caused coup d'etats, election rigging, all sorts of things, destabilization, crop burning, all of these things that they've done throughout the years to ensure that they get the most and the small people get the least. And they will always make sure that the scales are not slightly tipped in their favour, but just fully loaded in their favour, right? Now, years ago, people would have said that I'm a person that hates the rich. I don't. People would have said that I was a socialist. I'm not. People would have said that it's because I haven't made a lot of money that I'm jealous. Well, you see, the thing is, you have to want a lot of money to be jealous of somebody who has money. Now, who are these people that are like that? These are the people that went through the meat grinder from the moment they were 4, our schooling system, and educated these people that to be conceived to be good, to be conceived to be successful, you had to have more money than the bloke next to you. And while you're there, rub it in the fucker's face so that he will want to do better and he will work harder. And all they do is like dangle the carrot. So you work hard all of your life, which benefits them. And at the end of it, you've probably gone through a few financial collapses, maybe lost your house one, had a wife divorce you, maybe 2. Lost a shitload of money all the way, but you're still trying to get that carrot you never get. Some do, not all, right? And this was the training we were given. Now, I've talked about this in other videos. Say, for instance, when the Rockefellers took over the Institute in America, they started to re-educate people because they worked out that people at that point were clever enough and the education system was sophisticated enough that people would catch on quickly that these robber barons were going to fuck the entire planet over, and they worked out that that might cause a problem. So they changed the education system, which is why at the moment there's very much conflict, and that was meant to be too. There's people like me that weren't exactly successful at school because they had no interest at what they were being taught. There were many people that you might say had ADHD, learning difficulties or whatever else. But these people just weren't fucking interested in the system, didn't want to play. And since then, they've done their own education. You could speak to some of them and you'll go, what, you didn't do well at school? I can't understand how you could have done badly at school. Well, it's because they didn't want to play the game. And there's many people out there that have decided, I'm simply not playing anymore. Yours truly is one of them. And there are many others. Now, some of them started on the game and played the game up until maybe they were 20, 30. Some of them came out of that thing when they were 40 or 50, but many are. And the sad thing is that as people come out, it's almost like a grieving process. Because as you realise that what you were living was not entirely true, all right? I mean, it's reality. You live, you breathe, you go to work, you all the rest of it. But the facts that you were told about how to live your life by and what was good, what was bad, and what made you a good person aren't entirely correct. Why do you think they got rid of the church? Although the church itself has been corrupted completely. But many of the teachings in the Bible are good advice. However, I move on. Where do we go from here? Well, you've got to carry on waking people up. You've got to carry on telling people that the system is rigged, and if you actually believe that democracy is the thing, then you've got to explain to them why it's not a thing, how we've only ever had a two-party system really, why we only had first past the post rather than proportional representation to keep the status quo in. Why would you only want to keep the status quo in? Well, these people serve the thing, if you want to call it, and they will always do the thing's bidding. So we get given the illusion that, oh, well, we voted for that person, that one got in. If they fuck up, they're an arsehole. But when our lot get in, they'll fix the problem. And every time one of those two get in, they fuck us over even harder and blame the one before. It's very clever. The illusion of democracy. Now, I took a long while to come to terms with this because I couldn't believe that this great nation that I'm so proud of, that I call a democracy, that I call Great Britain, England, whatever, could actually have been, for all intents and purposes, nothing more than I don't even know the right word to put, but it's controlled. It's all controlled. And nobody ever held politicians to account. This is the thing that amuses me. They come, they say what they're going to do. We think that sounds great. We vote for them, and then they don't do any of it. Now they'll come up with all the excuses that all this red tape was against us, and in many cases it is, right? Because, well, the people behind, the bureaucrats, the ones that actually run the country, the day-to-day stuff, they may go up against it, make life difficult, but nevertheless, I don't know very many politicians that promised to do something, came in and did as they said on the tin. And they've got 1,001 excuses, maybe more. But the fact remains that we keep going in the same direction and we don't ask why. And I'm at that stage now where I realise that the system as it is not fit for purpose. And we have to go through some very, very bad times. And out of that will come a massive movement of very, very, very upset human beings. And these people might actively get together, but at that point, they'll face everything. The police, the army, and God knows what else. Not to mention all of the new to reservation people who don't like them either, who may well be funded by people to make sure that this thing fails. So the good people of the UK, all the different colours, will be fighting for their freedom, fighting to get rid of this government, and also fighting a new bunch of people which will also want to take over this country and make it a caliphate. What a wonderful time. Anyway, that's 23 minutes of yabbering. I'll be interested to see what you say in the comments. And if I get the chance later, I will do a live stream, but it all depends because we have Skittles for once. But I say Skittles, we're practicing. I'm shit, but it gets me out of the house. And I may even have a date tomorrow, first time in years. We'll see. Shit myself, obviously. So, yeah. And we'll see how it goes, but yeah, just prepare for the quickening. Right, I'll find somewhere to pull over so I can turn this off legitimately. That'll do me right about there. 1 second. engine off. Right, cheers. See you in a bit.